Okay, welcome to the official ARAM 2024 tier list, brought to you less than 30 days before the end of the year. So, probably not great timing, but I figured if there's ever a time to do an ARAM tier list, now is that time. So why am I qualified to be doing this in the first place? So I've probably spent around over 1,000 games, at least in the last couple of months, playing ARAM. It's pretty much all I play. So I've had an opportunity to play all of the heroes that you see in front of you, other than the banned ones, of course. Which ones are good, which ones aren't good. A lot of this is going to be my opinion. I imagine people will have similar opinions. There will be people that disagree with me, so let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Hopefully you get a lot of value out of this. Maybe you're new to ARAM and you want to learn which heroes you should just be insta-picking. Or maybe you play ARAM, you don't know what's good, what's not bad, you've been trying a few things and you don't know where to go. Again, hopefully this can inform you as to what heroes you want to pick in the future. So let's dive straight in. Starting with ARAM. So this is a bit of a divisive one because you can get some really, really good Alaracs and you can get some really, really bad Alaracs. I'm going to be assuming that people know how to play him. And for that reason, I'm going to put him in A. One of very few melee assassins that's probably going to rank as high as he does. And the reason he does that is his kit is very well rounded as far as melee assassins go. Telekinesis is what sets him apart here. We're talking about teamfight heavy games here. So having the ability to move heroes around into wherever you want is a huge advantage. Chain it into other CC, or maybe capture an escaping target, or even use it as your own escape. Telekinesis is so versatile, and mirror that with your silence abilities with Discord Strike and the range of his E. Just great kit. Obviously you've got his ultimate, well, at least the one that you are going to pick up, the one that makes him invulnerable for, I don't know what it is, like a second or so. Again, really well-rounded, versatile kit, puts him in A. But as I say, he could go well down the list if you get someone that doesn't know how to play. Okie dokie, Alexstrasza. So again, I'm going to put Alexstrasza in A. So her healing is very, very good, assuming you can get people to go into her circle. Now, the challenge and limitation with that circle, especially in a game mode like ARAM, is that it can be positioned really, really poorly, and it can be exploited quite significantly. So heroes like Azmodan, I don't know, Nazebo, people that want to have grouped enemy heroes together can really excel against Alexstrasza. So she's probably one of those heroes where she can do really well, assuming you're against the right comp. A good Alexstrasza will know when to put their little healing circle in the front line and when to put it in the back line. So many times I've played against, or played with an Alexstrasza rather, where they put the circle way in the back line, forcing your heroes who might be winning a team fight to push back and get that healing. A good Alexstrasza will know when to put it in the team fight and keep that team engaged. She also performs really well, interestingly, if you are a secondary healer. She can output stupid, crazy damage, actually. I played in a few games where I was able to go into her fire build and actually got highest damage. So one to look out for. Anna, I'm either going to put in B or C. I'll put in B, and the reason for that is mainly because of one ability, and that's because of her Biotic Grenade. So, yeah, great. Biotic Grenade is really, really good at healing your own team, and you can pick up abilities that do that. But the reason why it's so good in ARAM is actually because of the negative effects it makes on the enemy heroes. So, preventing healing on enemy heroes is far greater than the positive impact it has on your own team. The reason she isn't any higher up in this list is because her healing output is actually just pretty mid, pretty poor. It's okay, but it's nowhere near, definitely nowhere near what Alexstrasza or some of the other healers can output. So, solid B tier. She could be a little bit lower C. Movement is, again, something that lets her down a little bit. Anduin. I think I'm going to put Andu in A again. As far as healers go, I'd probably say like the high end of A. He's got great toolkit, great AoE healing. What's the name of the one with like the little bubble? Never pick that, especially in a game like ARAM, because you're always going to be up against strong CC, which is just going to hit you out of it. So Light Bomb is pretty much all that you're ever going to go for. And I find that the healing well is actually really, really good. All in all, pumps out crazy good healing and actually decent damage as well as far as healers go. So good kit. Always pick him if he is one of your healer options. Okay, Anubarak. There's a lot of A here. Hopefully it's going to even out by the time I've finished this tier list. So Anubarak is really, really good for a couple of reasons. The main one is his mage armor. So one thing that dominates completely in ARAM is mages. So people like Chromie, Gul'dan, Leeming, that pump out crazy good damage from a safe range, and it's all spell damage, right? So having a tank that has spell armor or an ability that grants spell armor straight off the bat is super, super useful. It just gives you that little bit of an edge. He also has two really, really strong CC abilities in his Burrow Charge and the spikes. So you can pretty much lock down whoever you want for quite a good few seconds. Let's say we'll take that Leeming example where you've got a Leeming just barraging you from the backline with her artillery. You can Burrow Charge into them, knock them up, wait for them to try to escape, and then put your little spikes into them, and it locks them down for a few seconds. You just need to make sure that your team is able to capitalize on that. I do see a lot of times an Anubarak will charge into the backline and don't have any support to follow up on it. Likewise, you see a lot of Anubaraks that, especially in the early game, dive a little bit too deep. Sometimes it's better to save the Burrow Charge ability as an escape rather than as an engage. Okay, Artanis. And again, I'm going to put them in A. I need to stop putting stuff in A. So Artanis, really, really good. He stacks. There's an ability that stacks his melee. Any of the heroes that have a quest that stacks infinitely, you'll find that they start to really be much, much higher up in the tier lists. The swap ability, super good, especially in the early game, especially against people that don't know how to counter it. It's the same with like Stitch's hook, for example. Great all-round versatile. You'll find that Artanis is pretty much unmatched when it comes to like 1v1s, especially in the late game. If you're in a 1v1 against an Artanis, things aren't looking good for you. So great all-around bruiser. Okay, Arthas, and we're going to start coming down the tier list now. So Arthas, I'm actually going to put in C. Early game, Arthas really, really struggles. And you see a lot of Arthas's feed in the early game because he doesn't quite have the same tankiness, the same toolkit that a lot of the tanks have in ARAM. Where he does get good is in the late game, especially when you pick up I forget the name of the talent, but there's one talent in particular that makes your Frost Ring slow significantly, and it makes him very, very difficult to get away from. His 1v1 potential again is really, really good, but early game, not great. We see a lot of people feed, and it just spirals things out of control, as you know, in ARAM. If you start to lose at the start, it's quite difficult in many cases to get back. Okay, Oriel. I'm going to put Oriel in A. So there's a couple of things similar to the Alexstrasza point. She is very much dependent on your team. So if you have a team member like a Leeming or a Gul'dan or a Chromie, as I previously said, that's going to pump out significant damage reliably, then Oriel's really, really good. If you are on a team with lots of CC but no damage, she can really struggle. So you need to be very, very wary of that. But other than that, her toolkit's really, really good. You got the whip, super good. Her healing, as I said, can be really, really good, assuming you've got the output there. But the reason why she's in A and not B is because of the quest that you get. I think it's level 16, where her healing starts to stack if you heal with your full energy, whatever it is. You can get to the point, especially if the game starts to go on super late, where your healing is doing stupid amounts of healing. You know, we're talking 4,000, 5,000 health points for everyone in your team. Especially if you pick up the ability that then also does damage, you're potentially doing, you know, 1,500 hit points of damage with a healing ability to every enemy that's within that ring. It's crazy. So she's in A for that reason. We're still keeping away from that S tier though. Speaking of S tier, Azmodan, S. So why is Azmodan in S tier? So he's got incredibly good damage, and because it's AoE damage, you'll find that his damage, at least on the charts at the end, is going to be probably highest. The reason why he's potentially not as good, and you need him to be followed up with a hero that's good at capitalizing on out of position heroes, or just doing burst damage like a Valor, for example, is because that damage is on a cooldown. So he's really good at getting the general enemy team health down, but then you need to capitalize on it. And because his dunk stacks, he's crazy good. He also provides pretty good utility and wave clear as well. So he's a good all-round hero. You just need to make sure that he is well supported, is what I would say with him. Okay, Blaze. I'm going to put Blaze in B tier. He's got a good amount of CC. He falls down a little bit, I think, in the same way that Anub'arak does. You get a lot of Blazes that will dive into the back line. He can bruise around for a bit. He can just be a nuisance. But oftentimes he will dive and doesn't have the team to support it. So you just need to make sure that when you're playing with a Blaze, make sure that he's not diving into the back line. And that's, I think, where he falls down a little bit. Damage isn't great. He's really there for those CC abilities, and particularly the slow. The oil slick ability is super handy. What you'll often see Blazes do, and again it's something that they need to try and avoid, is setting a light to their oil slicks immediately. It's actually better in many cases to just put the oil slick down and capitalize on the slow. But yeah, overall B tier, he's okay. Right wing, and again I'm going to put right wing in A. We need to stop putting things in A. Great AoE healing, particularly in the early game. Brightwing's super good. The spell armor, I mentioned spell armor is really good. In ARAM, they've got an ability on a cooldown. Equally the polymorph, so great all-around kit. Okay healing, but it's an AoE heal, and likelihood is you're going to be in a team fight most of the game, so you get maximum out of that. The challenge that Brightwing obviously faces is because it's AoE healing on a okay cooldown, is that she doesn't quite have that burst capabilities until you get Blink later down the line. So just bear that in mind. Your team need to adapt to that and make sure that they're not trying to engage with low health. Cassia. Cassia is either A or a B. I'm probably, and again, I'm going to put them in A. I'm sorry. So the only reason I put Cassia in A is because she gets lots of abilities that stack. You can pick up the Q ability that stacks. You can also completely diverge from that. You can go everything into Rend, which is the stabby build where you charge forward, and there's abilities that grant immunity or invulnerability, I think it's called. So she's got a great all-round kit. The lightning ball can be super good if you're playing against people that don't know how to play it, but as soon as you play against some people that know how to play against lightning ball, it's useless. So you should always go for the what's it called, Valkyrie or something like that, the ability that stabs and brings enemies forward to you. Great for capturing out of position heroes or squishy people in the back line. So overall, good kit. I see a lot of Cassias do really well, but equally I do see a lot of Cassias do poorly, so just bear that in mind. Chen. Sorry, Chen, you're the first D. So Chen his kit is really good at being a nuisance and catching people out of position and just overall being a pain. That's not really reliable in ARAM because it's a team fight. It would be good if you're, in the jungle and you're trying to catch people out of position doing camps. You don't get it here. The only thing that makes Chen semi-good is his the barrel ability. You can pretty much reliably kill someone with the barrel ability every time it's off cooldown if you can manage to get them out of position and under tower range. But other than that, Chen is not very good. Chromie. For reasons that I've already said, put Chromie straight in S. With Chromie, I pretty much always go everything into her Q build. If you can stack the quests early and get 3 of the shadows, or I don't know what they're called, she is insane. Plus, when you get the level 20 talent that allows her Qs to pierce, insane damage output from a crazy distance. You just need to be careful that you don't get out of position with Chromie, because she doesn't have too much in the way of escape. Obviously, she's got her time trap, which is pretty much her only way of defending herself. Other than that, crazy good. Always pick up Chromie if you have the opportunity. Deathwing. I'm going to go A for Deathwing. Really good. Overall, great rounded kit. Always go for the flame version of himself. I forget the name of it. Is it Destroyer mode? Chuck everything into your Q, the fire breath, and it stacks late game, where you basically get infinite energy or whatever it's called. Great CC. Obviously, he's got a pretty decent health bar, so if you're assuming you're full health, you can stay in team fights for quite a significant amount of time. He does fall down against certain heroes with like giant killer abilities, like Tychus early game will just basically focus you and you'll die instantly. But yeah, really good, well-rounded kit. Just make sure that you play around some of your talents. So if you pick up the talent early doors where you have to stay within the top armor bracket, then please do. I see a lot of Deathwings doing really badly because they go into like the second and third armor brackets and just get bursted down. You need to be very careful that you stay within the top range of his health. Okay, Deckard. Let's put Deckard in S. One of, I think, only 2 healers that I'm probably going to put up here in S tier. Deckard, late game is pretty much unstoppable as soon as you get bottomless potions. Assuming your team know where the potions are and can fight around them, it's very difficult to get around a Deckard late game. His healing is pretty much unmatched at that point. He also has the slows, he's got roots, pretty well-rounded kit. The sleep ability that he has, super good. It's great at facilitating escapes, it's great at catching squishies in the back line, or just overall focusing. His kit is pretty nutty for ARAM. Always pick him up if you have the option. The Hacker, I'm going to put in B for many of the same reasons that I have Blaze. He's got a good toolkit, he's a great bruiser, he survives long in the back line, but if you don't have a team that follows up, he ends up just being a nuisance rather than actually engaging and capitalizing on his toolkit. There are definitely better bruisers out there, like Artanis, for example, is always going to be better. His trait doesn't really get much utility, obviously the ability to have a global reach. So overall, he's okay, but there's definitely better stuff out there. Okay, Diablo. We're probably going to go A again for Diablo. Great overall CC. You've got his charge ability and the overpower, the sort of chuck of the shoulder. He has a crazy good health pool as well, assuming you get your globes. You just need to be mindful, I think, when playing him, and likewise the enemy team needs to be mindful. If they are playing it cautious, I think Diablos can fall off a little bit, particularly if they've got a lot of, the melee, a lot of the ranged assassins, the mages. He can struggle a little bit. But overall, super good, great utility. His ults aren't great, neither of them, so you can pretty much use either of them whenever you want. Okay, D.Va. I'm probably gonna put. Do I put D.Va in B? I'm gonna put D.Va in. I'm gonna put D.Va in C. She's okay. The reason why I put her in C and not B is because it's really common for her to get unmech'd, and you see that a lot. She'll overextend, get unmech'd. Don't get me wrong, she'll be able to escape in baby form or whatever people like to call it these days. But intentionally or not, that makes people feed when they're playing D.Va. I think a lot of people don't realize that you're still relinquishing half kill every time she gets unmech'd. And that allows the enemy to just get an incremental lead, especially in the early game. But aside from that, great all-round toolkit. The movement is actually pretty good as far as bruisers go. And one of I think the only bruiser with a pretty defensive or supporting ability with defense matrix, actually. And that's probably just because it's a lift and shift from Overwatch, as where she's a tank in that. But nothing unremarkable with D.Va, so just be careful if you're playing her. Okay, ETC, and again, A is way overrepresented right now, but ETC, super good, great CC, struggles in the same way I think I was talking about Diablo, in that without support, or if the enemy heroes are playing really defensively, he can struggle, and I think people have a tendency to overextend, and you just need to be careful of that. But the ability to slide in, boot people back, the single target priority there is really, really good. Mosh Pit, obviously, an insane ability, assuming you can get it off well. You don't see many people pick up Stage Dive as a result, but great all-round toolkit. Lack of armor is a bit of an issue, so you need to make sure that your team is keeping you topped up, and don't engage when you've got low health pool because he can struggle. But otherwise, very good, great toolkit. I'm going to keep going for A. I don't know what I can do. There's lots of heroes here that are really good in ARAM. Falstad in A. Movement ability with E. Q stacks. There's a quest that obviously stacks here. It's Q up, and I've said before, any of the heroes here that can stack with a quest pretty much make them really, really good. So for that reason, he's good. The two ults, there is one I would particularly prefer. A lot of people don't like it because they don't feel like they're getting that much impact, but it is by far the better, and that is the Gust ability. So good. If you can gust people into tower range, gust people into other strong CC or other ults, it's basically a guaranteed win condition in your fights, and the cooldown isn't very high. So, Falstad, overall, great hero. Phoenix, I'm going to put in D. They are very good in one niche scenario where you can get off reliable ranged auto attacks. But that's very, very rare for you to be able to do that in ARAM, because pretty much everyone prioritizes heroes with strong CC or engage. So he really struggles. The two ults, again, not great. The fire and Malaysia ult, people can just avoid. And the other one, it just doesn't do enough. You want ults that do crazy single target damage or decent overall AoE damage, and it just does mediocre AoE damage. So overall, don't pick him if you have the chance. Okay, Garrosh. So I'm probably gonna put him B. He is insanely good if you play against people that get too close and you can capitalize on being able to throw. But I think as soon as you start playing in games where people understand how Garrosh works, he falls off. Equally, if you understand how his armor system works, and that at low health, you need to burst him down, not just sort of leave him there in the backline, getting his armor off. So for that reason, he's in a B. He's okay. He can do really well, assuming people know how to play him. Late game, obviously he gets better. The Decimate ability, and particularly the talent that reduces overall damage, that can be really good. But yes, overall, not great. Definitely heroes up here with much better CC abilities that would beat out Garrosh. Okay, Gazlo. Easy S. And if you can get a Gazlo to pass level 20, he's pretty much, I wouldn't say it's a guaranteed win condition, but it makes it very difficult to outposition or push a Gazlo. Basically, always ever go bomb build, and that's the reason why I say 20 is the win condition. If you get the level 20 talent that turns a bomb into 2 more bombs, it's incredibly difficult to push past him because the CC is uncontrollable. Killing turrets can be helpful to push against him, but yeah, overall great kit. If you can get off good lasers and the self-sustain that the lasers provide, it's crazy good. Bomb into laser, and you can, assuming you can pick up all 5 enemies, that's like half your health back. Good, always pick him. That's what I would say. Gengu. I think I'm going to put Genji in C. And for many of the same reasons that Garrosh is in B. He's really good, assuming people don't know how to play against him. If you can get off reliable deflects, he's great. One thing he's good at is guaranteeing kills. If he can dive in behind tower range, assuming you've bursted a hero down to within an inch of their life, he can capitalize on that and basically guarantee the kill and then vault out. But in a team fight heavy game, he just doesn't do the damage that you want and doesn't offer the same utility that you want. So there's definitely ranged assassins out there that are just better. So bear that in mind. Greymane, again, I'm going to put in D. His toolkit doesn't lend itself very well to team fights. He struggles, I think, because a lot of the pure damage output that he can do relies on the ability to go into melee form. And melee assassins on the whole don't do very well because they don't have the self-sustain, the engage, and they sort of need to rely on being able to auto-attack. And it just doesn't happen. So Greymane, not great. His 2 ults don't have a crazy amount of impact. The Silver Bullet ult can be impactful if you're playing high health heroes like Diablo or Stitches with his quests, but yeah, overall D. I'd avoid him. Gul'dan, easy A, not S, maybe not quite S. I'd put him high A. Great overall damage, wave clears insane. Lack of escape is probably what inhibits him from going much higher, and obviously you're toying with your health. So Gul'dan is quite often low health as a result to pump out significant damage, and that makes him very, very vulnerable, which in a team fight heavy game, especially where you've got a lot of mages on the other team, he can struggle, so you just need to be careful. 2 ults, obviously I'd go for the Fear ability, much better, great single target, focus, or getting squishies in the backline. So good overall. Pick him if you've got no other option. Hanzo B? He's okay, assuming you can get your skill shots off. Crazy range. Vision arrow is super helpful in certain cases. 2 very good ults. Dragon Strike is super good if paired with strong CC, and obviously you've got your Dragon's Arrow for capitalizing on the squishies in the backline. So you can pretty much guaranteed get someone in the backline and silence them and capitalize on that. He's okay. You just need to make sure to hit your skill shots. Hogger, I'm going to chuck in A, not S. Similar to what I would say about Gazlo. With him, everything goes into bombs and it can stack pretty much infinitely, which is always good, as I've said. The Unstoppable is super handy. The ability to escape, really good. You've got CC, he's got great toolkit overall. His ults aren't great. I'd always go for the stunning one. Overall, he's a bit of a nuisance. Falls into that category a little bit with Blaze and Dahaka, where he's bruising in the backline and doesn't have too much impact, assuming your team can't capitalize on it. So he's there. Illidan D has to rely on consistent auto attacks, and that's often not the case when you've got strong CEC. I don't think I need to labour that. He just doesn't do well. Imperious, probably B. Stab ability really strong if you can get people. He doesn't have the same amount of self-sustain as some other heroes. It can be really good, assuming you get lots of reliable auto attacks off with your brands or whatever it's called. But he very often gets bursted down. Good ult in his, I forget the name of it, where it spawns the swords, something shield. Anyway, good overall kit, but mid in terms of the tiers that I'm going to give him. Jaina C. Unfortunately, there's just better ranged assassins. As far as ranged assassins go, her range isn't great. You know, most of her, I think she's probably got like one of the shortest overall ranged assassin kits. Her Q's not long, her E's not very long, so she really struggles. She's just good at chasing people down and capitalizing on that, which it's just not great in ARAM, if I'm completely honest. Ring of Frost is super handy, but yeah. C. Joanna, our first S tier tank. Overall, everything lends itself to team fights. You've got the Unstoppable trait, which grants a shield, super handy to escape. You've got the W, which pull things in. I'd always encourage people to stack talents into her E, the Glare, the Blind, which is super handy against a lot of the ranged assassins like Falstad, Alarat, Valor, people that do well. But there's also the talent that then makes that E heal you. And you can end up, again, similar to what Gazlo was doing, you can heal for about 50% of your health if you can get everyone in that shield glare. It's insane. Overall, S, easy. Junkrat is A? Or are they an S? No, A. Great overall toolkit, great escape, great repositioning enemies as well. The concussive mine, if you can get concussive mine to chuck an enemy into your fort, the same way that Garrosh does, super handy. In terms of damage though, it's just okay. He sort of outputs poke damage like reliably. You need someone to then follow up on that, is the issue. Both ults are also really good, so you can use the Rocket Ride is an escape, sort of get out of jail free card, but I would always recommend the Tire just for raw damage output. Kale, that's A again. A, I need to do something about A tier because there's too much in there. Couple of builds that he can go. He can go everything into Fire Strike, or he can go everything into the Living Bomb. Living Bomb, super good if you're playing people that don't understand how it works, particularly lower elos. Fire Strike if you are playing typically better people. You've got the stun ability, you've got 2 good ults, 1 for single target if they've got nothing to counter it, and you've also got the little Phoenix, which is good for sort of area denial. So overall, great kit. A, but not an S. Kel'Thuzad, I'm going to chuck in C. If you play a good Kel'Thuzad, they can be very good, probably up in A. The vast majority of Kel'Thuzads I play with are shite. Because for him to be good, you need players that will follow up on that CC. And also you need players that firstly understand how to chain his abilities. No pun intended. Chain. C. Kerrigan, D. S. I don't think I've ever seen a good Kerrigan in game. They just really struggle. Very squishy and needs to be in the front line to do any significant damage. And they just always get bursted down and then feed in the early game and then it's dead. Just never pick Kerrigan up, please. Karazim, I'm going to put in B. Couple of builds that you can go with Karazim. You can pick up pretty decent healing, you can go for pretty decent health, but all of those abilities are just sort of mid. You wouldn't want to pick him as a main healer, you wouldn't want him to pick up as a sort of a main damage. He's just okay at everything he does. Lucio, A, for many of the same reasons as Brightwing. Really good AoE healing, good overall kit. His boop is probably what sets him apart here. The ability to disrupt is super good against like ETC or other people that have channeled abilities. Yeah, I see most people will tend to pick up the drop the beat ability that grants the shield. The high five ability I've actually found works much better to particularly to grant the unstoppable, but also make up for the lack of burst healing. So yeah, don't sleep on him. Li Ming, easy S tier, just full on artillery builds, just pump damage into the enemy from a significantly safe distance. You can go for 2 builds, obviously you can go for the orb build, but actually I find that the better one to do is sort of the utility Q build. But most people tend not to go for that because it's just not as fun as landing a 1.5k orb in the face of an enemy from like half the map away. Lily, tempted to go D, but probably C. Suffers from a lot of the same issues that she does in overall gameplay, in that she can't choose where she heals. Overall okay kit, the blinds help, the jugs, great healing output, but yeah, if you've got a tank in the front line that's about to die, but you want to heal them, but you have a slightly squishy in the back line with lower health, you're going to end up healing the bloody squishy because, yeah, as I say, her Qs only go for the lowest target. Morales, B, great overall single target healing. Single target healing doesn't fare as well in ARAM. You can pick, there's a couple of talents that you can synergize together where you can heal multiple if you put your W on them, and that tends to make life a little bit better for her. I think also as soon as people recognize that she's there and like burst her down, that's when she starts to struggle, because her self-sustain relies on being able to heal other heroes. So if they go straight for the Morales, yeah, she can struggle. Lunara, probably B again. great poke damage, but nothing great. Like, she can chase people down, but that's about it. And you can pick up the ults that do that, but she doesn't have great burst damage, she doesn't have great single target damage. It's just sort of somewhere in the middle, which is a lot of the issue that I find with some of these heroes. Maiev. This is an interesting one. Take a cup of tea. It's cold at this point now. Maiev is really good if you're playing, or if you know how to play her. If you know how to get the chains off reliably and then chuck people into your backline, she's super good. And I've played against some incredible Maievs in the past. If you don't know how it works, then she's shit. Similar to Kel'Thuzad. So yes, if you want to play them, make sure that you know how to play them. Watch a guide, and you're in A tier. If you don't know how to play them, avoid them like the plague, because they really struggle for the same reasons that Kerrigan does. You need to be in the front line to capitalize on playing them well. Alganis. C. Great toolkit. The challenge he faces is that everything is bloody channeled. The same reason that he has, issues in quick match, and particularly in ranked, he's just never picked. If you play against someone like a Lucio, you just don't have a good time, because everything takes like half a second to cast. He can be a nuisance to the backline, just doesn't really do much other than disruption though. So yes, C. Okay, Malfurion. I'm gonna put in A. He could be S, but definitely A. Great overall healing. Has to rely on being able to get Moonfires off reliably on the enemy. But the reason he's in A is the root. The root basically sets him apart. And if you pick up the ability that grants a sleep at the end of the root, insane. 2 good ults. Tranquility's good. The Twilight Dream is also good for the silence. Overall, really, really good. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. Malthael. Gonna probably put him in B. For many of the same reasons as the Hacker and Blaze. Good at disrupting, can be in the backline, really good against people like Deathwing and high health pools. But yeah, you need to be within melee range to capitalize, and he needs to be able to get off his abilities to capitalize. But with strong CC, he can struggle. That's what I would say. Medivh. Medivh is an interesting one. Similar to Maiev, you need to know how to play Medivh. And people equally on your team need to know you have a Medivh, because Medivh is going to want to put portals down to save you, and people, I don't think, naturally think of portals to escape. So he's good if you're playing with a team and you know how to play him, but if you're not playing with a team and if you don't know how to play him, he's not good. So he could be D, he could be A, but overall I'm going to chuck him in C. May. B. Yeah, B. Blinds are really, really helpful. The W can get a lot of value if people don't know how to play around it. The slide is probably the thing that sets her apart, and most people would tend to go for talent builds that stack into her slide. It's good as an engage, it's good as an escape, similar to Anub'arak's Burrow Charge. I just don't think she has quite the same impact as some of these other tanks. Both ults are pretty good actually though. The Snowball, you see a lot of people chuck it into the backline. If you can get it people within tower range, it's super good, pretty much a guaranteed kill. And the Wall, really good for escapes and engages. But overall mid, I'd say. Mephisto, S tier. Crazy AoE damage. He's probably an S tier for the same reason that Azmodan is. You can burst, sort of chunk people down in the enemy team, and then have someone like a Li Ming or a Chromie or a Valor to capitalize on that. You just need to make sure that you, when you do use your Shade ability, that you aren't using it in a place that will compromise you. If you're playing against someone like a Nazebo, for example, they are going to be looking for where your shade is and chuck a wall down and capitalize on that. So just be careful when you use it. Muradank. Let's go A. Overall, Muradin's got a good kit. His Dwarf Toss gives him great movement, great escape, or equally engage. 2 excellent ults. Avatar basically makes him an unstoppable force for a while, and you've got Haymaker, which grants pretty good repositioning that a lot of tanks don't have. And actually crazy damage too, if you can get Haymaker. So yes, overall really good, great kit. Murky, I'm sorry Murky, I know everyone loves you, but we're going to put you in D. Overall, he's a nuisance, given that it's quite common for lots of mages, like up here, lots of people with burst damage. He just doesn't do well. He can die instantly quickly. And you need his fish, the puffer fish, to get off, and a lot of people just realise it's there and can auto-attack it down, so he doesn't get much value. So yes, D. Nazeboo. C. C? S. Easy S for Nazebo. Multiple great builds. You can go into Spies, you can go into the Frogs. The Wall is insane. 2 great ults. He's, yeah, just insta-pick him. The one thing I would say, what sets good Nazebos apart from bad Nazebos, is those that make a point to stack his voodoo ritual early doors. So just be careful of that, and that's where he gets really good, especially if you can somehow get the quest off before the end of the game. It's often a challenge if you can get his quest off. Nova. D. So I'm going to say this, so a lot of the stealth characters really struggle on this. The value that you get in stealth is catching people off guard, you know, in the jungle, and it's just not a thing in ARAM. So their kit, as a result, just doesn't get the value that it needs, because it's quite often not as strong as people that don't have the invisibility, intentionally so. Because if they were invisible plus had the same impact as non-invisible, it wouldn't make any sense. So for that reason, she's in D. Doesn't get the value you need. Orphea will be in A. Good overall damage. If you can get off reliable auto attacks, and if you make sure that you hit your abilities, she can do really well. If you are struggling to hit things, then she can struggle. 2 really good ults. I typically go for the Chomp, the jaw ability, just for that stun. Yeah, really good. Couple of talent options. You can go everything into E, or you can go everything into the trait, the Chaos, or whatever it's called. Both really good. Oh, God. Probius, again, I'm going to put in D for a lot of the same reasons as Murky. Just not good. I've played against 1 good Probius in however many games that I've played. And they were probably, at most, still at like a B. Their kit's just not meant for this. And if people know how to play around the bombs, whatever they're called, singularities, then it's just not good. Okay, Kira. I'm going to put them A. And that's probably the last melee assassin I'm going to put in there. Great overall utility. The ability to escape is there. The challenge that she faces, obviously, is that she needs to get off of her abilities and melee reliably to keep her health up. And she can do that if she wasn't playing against people with strong CC. So, you know, as soon as she starts coming up against ETCs and Diablos and Anubraks and Artat, she just really starts to struggle. But if she can reliably get to backline squishies, then she can do really well. A couple of really good ults too, used in most cases. Ragnaros, probably a C, I'd say. Overall, he's okay. You don't get much value out of the trait, because people can just back off. His talents and abilities are relatively underwhelming. Most people would chuck everything into the what is it? Is it his E? The one that sort of grants armor and does a little burst damage. Oh, I forget. That's just, I don't play him because I know he's just not very good. And the ult that everyone likes, the wave, is banned. You just can't play the wave, the thing. So yeah, unfortunately, he's in C. Raynor, I'm going to put in B. You need to reliably get off auto attacks for him to be any good. And that's quite difficult. He's got most of his abilities are relatively short range as well, so he can struggle to do well. His positioning needs to be key there, and a lot of people don't position him well, so overall B. Rhaegar, S. For one good reason, and that's his trait. He gets an unstoppable cleanse ability literally straight out the gates, which is insane. What I would say with him is his healing, particularly in the early game, is not great. So you need to make sure that your team understands that and doesn't position themselves too deep in enemy backlines. So just bear that in mind. Late game, his healing actually starts to get insane. Once you start to get the cooldown reduction and the increased healing on lower health targets, it can be really, really good. Both ults also have their uses. Most people will go for ancestral healing for the just raw healing output, but Bloodlust can be insane if you're playing particularly auto attack heavy heroes. Okay, Rexar is a D in my opinion, for the same reason that Diva's down here as well. Misha ends up dying a lot, granting early XP leads to the enemy team, but overall the kit's not great. It's just not. Yeah, D. I don't know what else I can say. Samuro also a D. So where do I start with this? Firstly, his kit's not good for this. He is there to be a nuisance. But the one thing that makes him a C and actually disadvantages your team more so is the fact that he makes the mirror images. And there are lots of heroes with quests that want to hit their abilities on enemy heroes. And each one of those mirror images acts as a another hero. So having duplicates will grant their quests quicker. So you need to be very careful. And for that reason, he's actually more of a hindrance on your team. Sonya, B. She's okay if she can get auto attacks off reliably, which, as we've established, doesn't happen. She's got great single target engagement, great engage on squishy targets in the backline, but can struggle, particularly if people CC her and burst her down. Stitches, easy S, because of one reason, and that's because you can basically stack your health infinitely. You know, I've been in games where Stitches get up to like 10k health, and it's just insane. Good overall toolkit. The hook is really good at getting, particularly squishies in the backline. You can just hook through the entire enemy team and grab squishy. Two good ults. Most people pick up Gorge, I think, because it's pretty much like a guaranteed kill if you've still got forts up in the mid game. But the Bile Spread, or whatever it's called, is also really good too. Stitches, always pick them up if you have the option. Stukov. Another A. Similar to the same reasons as Lucio and Brightwing. Great AoE healing. You've got his trait, which gives him a little bit of burst, but it's on a very slow cooldown. So just bear that in mind. So basically his healing is on a cooldown associated with his trait. So bear that in mind. Two builds with him. Most people go Lurking Arm, which is just a straight nuisance. Everyone hates it, put it that way, because it's just a silence. Especially if you can put it in the enemy team's gate. It just... couldn't think of anything worse. But you've also got the postural build, so the W build, which is overall good. and it can actually late game put out crazy damage too, so just bear that in mind. Sylvanas is probably a C. Overall, okay kit. Obviously, a lot of her abilities revolve around her stopping forts from attacking and things like that, which on a single lane map doesn't have much value. Damage is, as a result, not great, because when she was originally incepted as a specialist, that was her job, and her kit has been slightly modified, but it's still not geared towards team fights. Tassadar. Do I put them in S or A? Probably A. I feel like there's better mages up here. Their damage is good, in fact very good. The wall is very good, but I don't think they have quite the same single target output as some of the other mages that you see up there, like Chromian Leeming. Level 20, they get pretty much insane abilities with the reduced cooldown on the wall, which is basically what you should always pick up. But their ults is just a little bit mediocre, if I'm completely honest. So yeah, which is probably why they're in A and not S. Okay, Butcher. It's either C or D. I'm going to put them in C, because if they can stack, they do okay. But 9 times out of 10, they never get to the, 200 meat that's required. And then they just struggle. So yes, C. Brawl, easy S. Easy S, especially with the buffs in the latest patch, whenever that was. Lightning Bolt. Is it Lightning Bolt? Just does crazy damage, like insane. And if you can get the quest that stacks its damage and also prioritizes heroes, if you can get that quest off, he easily in excess of 100k damage every game. Aside from that, good kit. You've got the roots, you've got the speed, you've got stuns. I would always recommend going for Earthquake, just because of the engagement or escape potential. And I think if you level 20, it grants shields to allies as well. So overall, really good. Tracer, probably C, because they are better than some of these. It's just a bit of a nuisance, if I'm completely honest. Reliable chip damage, good self-sustain, but they don't offer much in terms of kill potential. She's in very much the same category as Genji, actually. Like, their kit is really good at engaging low target heroes, but they don't offer much to a team fight. Tychus, C, really good against high health heroes like Deathwing, Diablo, but his kit just isn't great. He has the same issues as Raynor, where he has to be relatively close range to get value out of his abilities, but you don't want to be that close. So it's, I guess, similar to the issues that Jaina has. His ult, equally not great. Most people go for the mech. I forget the name of the mech, just because the range that it gives you then. The laser typically doesn't perform very well because it gets bursted down, because you're up against a 5 stack, so they can just burst it down if they've got good pops. Tyrael, probably a B. Overall, well-rounded kit. You see a lot of Tyraels overextend. He offers the good shielding for your team, good engage if people know how to use his E correctly. A couple of good ults. Either you go defensive with it's not consecration, sacred ground, or anyway, and then you've got good engage with his charge. But overall, there are way better tanks, and you can see them here in the list. He's just okay. If there are other tank options, he's probably not your preferred pick, put it that way. Tyrande, Whisperwind. Let's put Tyrande. I'm going to put them in B. I guess similar to Karazim, they are not a great solo healer. Because for them to do well, you need to get off reliable auto attacks. which isn't always that good and that easy. They are very good as a secondary healer or support ability. The Hunter's Mark can do insane utility for your team, assuming you know how to capitalize it on people, and people will target that Hunter's Mark target. Uther, I'm ashamed to say, I'm going to put them in D. Really, really poor solo healer. Basically impossible to be the solo healer as Uther. Healing abilities, very low cooldown. Very difficult to get value out of your W because it's short range and people tend not to stack up unless you ask them nicely. He is good at being a supportive healer. So there to stun people and offer that additional utility with the armor that he provides. Valera, D, same reason as Nova. Their kit doesn't lend itself to team fights. I'd say they're probably better than Nova, but not great. Valor, A, great single target damage, but not as good as some of the mages up here. There are lots of heroes that offer blinds as well, which struggle. She is just good. It probably falls into the same category as Gul'dan, actually. Good single target damage output. Quite squishy though is probably one of their issues. Varian, maybe B. Taunt is insane. I see a lot of great Varians. I also see a lot of really poor Varians. He's got a good, well-rounded kit, and obviously you can tailor his ability set based on what you're playing with. So if you want to go damage Varian, you can. You want to go tanky Varian, you can. But I don't think he does anything crazy well. He does it much better if you've got another tank. Okay. White. Let's go B. Okay damage, okay healing. If people know how to use them correctly and conserve their mana correctly, then they are really good. I think a lot of people don't know how to play White Mane. She's quite challenging for a lot of people to pick up. And I don't think many people play her enough to understand how her abilities work and talents, because it can get quite confusing. So I think could be A if you know how to play. If you don't, and easily a C. So avoid if you don't know how to play. Zul, gonna put in B for a lot of the same reasons as people like Sonya. Really good if you can get reliable auto attacks. Sweeping strikes build in particular. If you can get in the backline and just sweeping strike, he's basically invincible. But if you can't, then he doesn't do very well. So could be A, could be D, even if people, if depending on what comp you're up against, and you just don't know in ARAM. Yrel, C, maybe even D actually. C, yeah, I'll put him in C. Okay, well-rounded kit, but doesn't provide much impact for a team fight. She's just there. Doesn't lock up people, you know, stun them. She just got sort of repositioning abilities. Yeah, just doesn't provide much utility, and oftentimes you see people diving in and then dying anyway. Zagara. No, I'm gonna put them in A. Great overall damage. The vision that they provide is super handy. It can get cleared out if people know how to play against them. The ability to spawn minions is super handy. It's sort of like cannon fodder. Especially if you're up against like a Li Ming that's just firing orbs. If you're spawning minions, and this is the same with like an Ubrak, if you're spawning beetles, it's very annoying for a Li Ming to play against. But they can put out crazy damage. There's a particular quest as well that stacks your auto attack, and if you've got a frontline heavy team that you can reliably auto attack, they stack infinitely, and we know that's good. Oh, Zarya. B or C? B. Really good, provide good support, but in terms of damage output, it's not great. In terms of supportive abilities, it's just okay. They're probably middle of the field. The reason that she's in B and not C is because of Graviton. For the same reasons that Stitches, the ETC and Mosh Pit is good. If you get a good one, it does crazy well. And if people can capitalize on it, you know, chuck it in with a Dragon Strike, and the enemy team just melts. Last two, okay, Zeratul. I'm actually going to put Zeratul in C. I said that the Invisibles just don't do very well. The reason he's there is he has actually decent AoE damage, aside from his stealth abilities, and Void Prism is really good for a number of reasons. It's good engage, it's good escape, yeah, overall really, really good. And finally, this chappy here, S. So Zul'jin in S. Great single target damage, great AoE damage, 2 excellent ults, you know, Tazdingo to keep yourself alive and facilitate escape, or ensure a kill, or the guillotine, crazy damage output. He just needs to be careful that you manage your health effectively, so use your trait abilities well. So there we are, there's my tier list, the official 2024 tier list. If you have skipped to the end of this video to see the tier list, then there you go. Thank you for watching the video, or at least 10 seconds of it. Much appreciate it. If you watched it all the way through, I appreciate that even more. But interested to see your thoughts. Is this what you would expect? You know, having played ARAM, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Interested to hear in the comments down below. Is there anything that I've got glaringly wrong, or would you agree with everything I've said? Let me know in the comments. If you like this sort of content, then let me know as well in the comments. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It lets me know what you like. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.